Hey everybody, it's Josh. I wanted to do a video today. I got a comment. Just got back from Pennsylvania to North Carolina, and my mom seems to be doing a little bit better, so thank you all for your prayers, and we'll see what happens next. You never know. You try to guess God's plan and you'll just make yourself into a fool. Be wrong almost 100% of the time. But the comment that I got was from a man who was dealing with just almost overwhelming struggles in life. He has an autistic son, and if I'm getting any of this wrong, I apologize, but he has an autistic son and his wife, who I guess got into an accident and had to have like 14 surgeries. So now he is the caretaker for both of them, full time. I don't know if you all have ever been in a position where you have to be a full-time caretaker for someone, but then to be a full-time caretaker for two people, it's beyond challenging. It will test your mental strength. I think there's I try to remember the song lyric from a Band of Horses song called Barrel House. It says, it's a test of the spirit versus the health of a mind. It's exactly what it is. But we all go through life, and we all think at times, oh, it's just unbelievably unbearable. And that is the exact type of people that I was sent to help. When he actually came to my videos by accident, he thought I was I think somebody from a paranormal investigation video, and I've actually gotten, I think, mistaken for that guy before. I'll have to check him out. Apparently he looks just like me. But he was saying that he thought it happened for a reason, that he found my videos for a reason, and I really believe that that's true. Because when I was saved from my lowest point, from rock bottom, I didn't think I could do any more. You know, we always think that, but a lot of times there's a lot further to sink before we just reach our limits. And when I was saved, one of the greatest things God showed me was that my purpose required the suffering that I went through. The sacrifice, the suffering, the sheer agony at times, it's all happening for a reason. And yes, even when children suffer, and we think, how could a loving God ever do this? You know, I get so many comments too about it's the old thing, and it really, without deeper thought into it, it makes perfect sense to ask this question. Even when you're a believer, you have to ask this question. You have to understand. We ask, why does God allow bad things to happen? Why does God allow suffering? Why does God allow this world that seems like hell sometimes? You know, I completely understand that. I asked myself that over and over again, and I needed the clarity that God gave me. Because, first of all, where would we be without suffering? what would you, first of all, the human race would not even be able to evolve or have any depth in their meaning, no meaning at all, no purpose, no meaning. It would just be here if God made just the perfect utopia for us all to live in. We wouldn't be able to appreciate that perfect utopia because we would have no struggles to compare it to. It was just like I was telling my sister. I mentioned in another video. You know, she's caring for my mother, and she's caring for a lot of times my father, but it is non-stop. It is because my mother literally could not sleep throughout the night, and she had to have somebody with her or she'd go into this anxiety panic attack. So it was almost impossible to do anything without somebody being in the room with her. And that is, you know, she would just yell for somebody or just really go into a full-on anxiety attack if nobody was there. And then when they were there, she would just bug them to get up and get her tea or a cookie, or she had to go pee every 10 seconds, even though she didn't really have to. She just wanted somebody to pay attention to her. And that's exactly what the stroke did to her mind. But I'm going to walk over here a little bit. The neighbors are out. We really have to understand that when you go through that, when you walk through hell and you come out of the other side, that you finally appreciate even a glimpse of the beauty in this world. Because if you hadn't walked through that hell, you would not be, you have to get battle hardened. And I mentioned, you know, there's so many things, like the coal put under pressure becomes the diamond. That is our soul. We have to put it through the ringer, put it through trial and error and failures and everything imaginable, or we don't appreciate all of the beauty in life. And now the guy who left the comment, you know, I told him, you know, I wanted to do, I'll probably end up doing a few videos on this because I'm really, right now I'm still kind of lagging from my trip and hadn't really gotten a good night's sleep in over a week. And obviously, you know, when you're dealing with family members who may be on their last days, it's you worry about them. I'm not fearful like I used to be in these situations, but of course I worry about everything, not only just for my mom, but also for the rest of my family. Because the hospitals, they don't care anymore. They don't care one bit. You might find a nurse or a doctor occasionally who cares, but as a whole, the medical system will chew you up and spit you out. They're a big corporation. Don't expect anything. In fact, if any of you ever have a loved one or are yourself in the hospital, make sure there's an advocate there for them. That's very important, because they transferred my mom to a place that was almost 2 hours away from my parents' house. And my sister had taken off every day she could have from work, taking care of my dad and my mom, and she could not get up there. And I told her, I was like, I'm going to be up here, just let me visit them. You know, we'll do what we can. You know, I'll give you guys a break, you and Dad, a break from being caretakers and running back and forth for her, but it's awful. It really is sad to see what the the hospitals and doctors' offices and everything have become. The shills for big pharma, and you're just a number in there. They don't care if you live or die. Well, they do. They don't want you to die in their property, so they'll just kick you out. So, how was I talking about that? Yeah, so, yeah, they just, I was worried about that because I didn't want them to send her home, and then my dad and my sister they can't lift my mom. So unless they have some nurse being there, like basically 24/7, that'd be the only way they could possibly even have her at home. Well, my dad feels guilt because he wants her at home, but he just cannot physically take care of her. He threw out his back trying to help her into the shower one time with my sister. We thought he was going to have back surgery. Thank God he did not. But we all have this deep desire to know our Creator, to know God. And really, we kind of have it when we're younger, but it doesn't really come to fruition until we are older, a lot of times older middle ages. Now, depending on your life, it could happen a lot younger than that. You just have this burning desire. I have always, since I felt the presence of God, I've always wanted to know God. Just feeling Him and knowing there was a God, knowing I was 99% sure that I had felt the presence of God the few times I did from the ages of 13 to 20. But He gave me no direction. I needed to know Him because I needed that guidance. I needed the Father to show me what was the meaning of this life and how do I fit into it, and why am I going through one struggle after another. As I always mention, and I asked God, why do you keep piling all these things on my shoulder when my back is already broken? Well, I don't know. One second here. I'm trying to see what we got people. We just have a bike trail that opened behind our house here. But so my dog might be barking quite a bit while I'm doing this. But we need to know God. Not everyone. There's some people who literally don't have a deep thought in their lives. They just don't have that need to understand all of this. And there's, you know what, we might think that all those people, those people who have just shallow, a lot of egocentric people. Sometimes they're not. They're just simple people. Everyone has a place to fit in here, even if you don't have that desire to know God. I think that we have that connection with God in such different ways. So, me, I'm the more sort of metaphysical type person. So my spirituality is more metaphysical. I need to connect and feel that higher consciousness. A lot of times that's what spirituality and stuff focuses on. But I do believe that for many people, that is the first step towards knowing God. Because when you understand your spirituality, it can go so many different directions. But to do it the way that you should do it, if you're going to ever explore your spirituality with any way from transcendental meditation to psychedelics to whatever you choose. I'm not saying you should, because psychedelics are very, very dangerous. And I had amazing experiences from them, but I had some of the worst experiences of my life from them. But I would not take that back. I would not take any of my life back. These things needed to happen for me. We all have our path, and we all go through these challenges and these different wild experiences sometimes for an exact reason. Now, for the man who has to basically sacrifice everything to take care of his autistic son, who he says barely ever sleeps, and he has to have someone there with him, just like what I was talking about with my mom. Somebody has to be there with him all the time, he explained. And then his wife, I know that she's in bad shape. I don't know how bad, but it's challenging, because the thing that I tell people is you have to get out into nature, and you have to kind of get out on your own. Now, I don't know if he can maybe take his son out into nature with him, and that would be great. But to connect with God, for me, I had to be alone. You know, Jesus said to go into your room and close the door behind you to worship. And there were so many times when he was out just in varying places in nature. And you feel, you'll be thinking about something, and you feel this breeze, like I just felt, sweep across you, and you get that chills up your spine, just that magical feeling. And these types of things, you might be drawn to a flower, a specific flower, and be like, wow, what is that? Crazy purple looking flower, or, this cool looking tree. I always talk about the cypress trees, because the day I was saved, I was along the shore in Falls Lake, and the doe was walking alongside of me, and we walked past all these young cypress trees, and they're very rare in that area, but they just hit home for me. And the other day I was up in Pennsylvania, and I was at the bridge where they filmed Kingpin, the famous scene from Kingpin when they're on the bridge there with the church behind them. And I started seeing these nests of, they look like wasp nests, and these birds were flying into them. I'm like, are these birds like just going after these wasps? And I actually commented that on the video, I think. But it turns out, no, they're called cliff swallows, and they build a nest out of mud. But I was looking at the spiritual significance of, in the Bible, these swallows are always kind of a symbol of freedom, of communicating with God. And it's things like that you have to take note of, because this is the ways that God talks to you. You know, the first ever thing I found in the area where God saved me. This was almost exactly 5 years ago, I think. I kicked over a rock and there was a beautiful garnet there. And it got me into collecting rocks but the big thing was, after God saved me, I started thinking about how many crazy things had happened to me, how many times he had spoken to me just in that one area. Oh, I'm just watching a bluebird over here. That's beautiful. Just in that one area, and that is where I first found that garnet, which was the first gem I ever found. And the garnet was a very strong symbol of so many things, of spiritual direction, of the fires that began the God began the universe with. It's the energy that God began the universe with. Most of all, Noah used it on the ark. The only light and the only guidance, the guiding system that Noah had, besides letting birds go and letting doves go and seeing if they came back or not, was a garnet. He had a huge garnet, apparently, that just glowed the whole time. Now, for me, that was powerful when I read that. I never even thought about any things like this, but God gives you these symbols and these messages to piece together what he's trying to say to you, where you're supposed to go. And you'll feel it in your heart when you start following. You're like, am I on the right track or am I not? I always mention when I was kind of looking up New Age spirituality, and I was watching about the manifesting realities and all that stuff. And I knew in my heart, I was like, this is not what God wants me to do. I'm not saying that's wrong for you, but for me, no. God was like, no. I will show you where to go. You have faith in me and I will guide you. As long as your faith is strong in me, I will give you this inner peace and this guidance to who and where and what you need, exactly when you need it. Timing is a huge deal in God's messages. If you look up the significance of when Christ walked the earth, it was at exactly the right time that humanity needed them. Now, I've watched a few videos on people talking about this, how it was like smack dab in the middle of all of the different religions and all of the different gods and, polytheistic, monotheistic, all of them. And it was the exact right time that humanity needed Jesus Christ. So what do you do, though, if you are a caretaker? Because I was on the other side of this. I was the one who needed care. Thankfully, I could move, and I didn't need that much care, but I still needed my wife to do so many things, especially with taking care of the kids. So what do you do when it's all on you? You have to find that direction with God, but you almost have no free time. You have to find a time to break free and get out into nature and hear God's message, or wherever you, in the room alone, praying. But for me, when I'm praying in my room or something, I just don't see, because God will send me different things as signs, and that's how I hear back from him. But that's not how everybody is. So you have to find your own way to connect with him, your own way to do all of it. But I would say, he says he's had a lot of bad experiences with the churches because he was in a very strict church, and his father was a bad, abusive alcoholic, and the church talked his mom into staying with them for however long, how many extra years just of extra abuse by him. So of course he's shying away from the churches. But I think you have to give church another chance, especially in this situation. There may be someone who can guide you there, and more than the guiding part, because I really do think to find God, you have to go to the source. You have to find your source, your connection to God. And to me, that was going out into nature. To many, it's going to church. You have to find what works for you. If the churches have failed you so much and you just can't seem to overlook it, then you're going to have to try something else. But the church offers such great community. You know, you could call the pastor and be like, look, I need time to just maybe an hour a couple times a week. That's all you need, just to decompress, to feel that you're actually alive again. Because I know when you're a caretaker, it just feels like you're a slave almost. I understand that. If anyone has any thoughts on helping, on what to do to kind of just get a little time for this man for himself, and please let me know, and I will pass it on to him, or I'll talk about it in another video or whatever I need to. People like this are exactly who get overlooked in life. They slip through the cracks, and these are the ones that Christ himself came to. And going back even farther, you look at Moses. Moses came, you go to almost every religion and they're like, the poor, the weak, the oppressed. That's what it's all about in so many religions. But Christ especially, God chose to come to this world at the exact right time as a poor carpenter, and to find all of these overlooked people who have fallen through the cracks. And there's the famous line, I think it's easier for a camel to walk through the head of a needle than a rich man to go to heaven. There's a lot about being broke and being broken that gives us that extra step towards God. Maybe a couple extra steps towards God. Because that suffering unlocks so much. Once we've made it through that, and a lot of times we'll realize, oh, this cool little bug just landed on my phone. He's like a little red and black bug, not a ladybug, but. So we are already so much of the way there. One thing why I think so many who are broke or broken or both, we realize that so much of this life we have been guided through, and we just didn't understand it at the time. God is guiding all of us. And we get mad at God so often for when it all just falls apart. You know, this man said he'd just gotten over being mad at God. And I get it. I was angry with God, but I was more angry with myself. Because it just wasn't even really anger. It was more like I just felt unworthy. And I was like, I just must have just not done what I needed to do the right ways, because I know I made so many mistakes when I was young. But no, we are all worthy because we are all sinners. We all have that evil human nature in us. But we also have that divine light within us too, that hopefully outshines most of the time. But it's a lot of times it's easier just to slip into that darkness, because the darkness gives us instant gratification. And as this man mentioned, he'd gotten the addiction genes from his father. And boy, that's the last thing you want to do in that situation, is add some addiction onto that. But that's the type of people who often turn to alcohol and drugs. I mean, why else? I mean, it's a great escape. You forget about everything. But as I mentioned in my addiction video, when you do this, you are signing a deal with the devil. And the devil is always in the details, because they don't tell you. They tell you they're going to relieve your pain. And it's true. But they never tell you that they're not going to relieve your suffering. And there's a huge difference in pain and suffering. There really is. And now I'm going to think more about this. If anybody has any ideas on this, please let me know. Please let me know. I'm going to try to do a Mother's Day video tomorrow, especially with my mom in the hospital. Maybe she can actually watch it there. And my wife, who has just put up with so much from me over the years, especially before I was saved. Oh man, it was bad at times. But I really want to get back to this subject. So please, if you have any suggestions for this man on how to have some free time just to go out and to worship with a extremely autistic son and a disabled wife. I don't know with the extent. I'm assuming she's in a wheelchair at least. Please let me know, because if you've been in situations like this, please let me know, or you've even heard about it. I would love to know this, because these are the types of people, you all are the type of people that I'm here for, and that I want to do the very best for, because I want you all to understand this overwhelming peace. In what should be the hardest point of my life, I see overwhelming peace and joy. I love you all. God bless. Have a great Mother's Day. Hug your mothers if they're still around. Hug your wives. And we'll see you soon.